So I got Maya open and I have my project copied to my desktop. So the first thing I'm going to do is set my project and go to the desktop where I copied the folder, set my project, and then go open up the file. The file is called Lamp Jump 2020. When we open up the scene, you will already have a camera view. So this is the camera that you're going to use. It's already set up. It's already locked. But we'll have a look. I'll just go to a perspective view, and we'll have a look at the rig and setup and how you're going to pose this thing out. Okay, so I'm just going to hit Alt-B. Just going to change my background color so it's a little easier to see the lamp. There we go. Now, if you hit 4 on your keyboard and go to wireframe, what you'll see is there is a control that you won't quite see. It's kind of intersecting the geometry. So this is the main control of the character, and we will not use that to animate. This is just used to place the character in the right spot at the right scale, but we're not going to animate it. The controls we're going to use to animate the character are these 3. There's a control for the base, right? So which you can lift up and rotate. That's our base. There's also a control for the head of the lamp and a control here at the neck elbow, right, to control the way that that angles. Okay. So go back to my solid view. So control here, and control here. The other thing I'm going to do is go set my filters. I want to make sure I turn everything off except for curves. So now that I've set my filters, I can drag a box around everything, but I'm still grabbing this control, right, which I don't really want to do. I don't want to move everything at once. So what I'll do is I'll take that control and I'll put it on its own display layer and then hide it. So this layer here, I'll just name it. This is lamp main control, just so I know what it is. I don't need to animate that, so I'm just hiding it. It's just one less thing to worry about selecting. And if you grab all 3 of those controls and you make sure that your move tool is set to world space, then you can pick up the character and just move them around as if they were like a little chess piece, as opposed to having to move one thing at a time, which I want that over there, and then I got to grab this and move that over there, and then I got this and move that over there. So one way to kind of previs your scene is to just have a way that you can select the character and just move them around, right? So I know where they're going to be. And when you pose out your scene, of course, you don't necessarily have to work in a straight line. You don't have to start at frame 1 and worry about everything. What you might think about is, well, I know that eventually I need to have the character land, and I want them to land close to the edge of this cliff, but I don't necessarily know when that's going to be. So I might start with a guess. So I might start with, okay, I'm going to do like bounce, bounce, bounce. It's like 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. That feels like 1 second to me. So I might start with a guess like that and say, well, how about, let's say at frame 25, 1 plus 24, let's imagine that I'm here. So I'm just going to start with that pose. And this isn't a great pose. It's a bit sort of standing up really straight. So what I might do is maybe adjust it a little bit and make it feel like we were jumping. And I want to land in a way that when I land, I'm looking across, right? So this would be that moment if I look in the reference video, the lamp has stopped jumping and it's looking at the hole and like, oh, okay, I can't go anymore because there's this gigantic hole that's right here. So that might be the first pose that I worry about. I know the lamp's going to jump in, but I know how to do that. I know the bouncing ball formula. I'll figure that out. What I want to start working on is more the performance and say, well, I know I'm going to get here and I'm going to jump in, do that after. I know I get here. This is my last position. And then I'll start thinking about the acting, okay? Now, when we're dealing with something like a hold, let me just fire up my grease pencil here. One of the things that we're doing is, I mentioned that we want to have the character, sorry, bad color, that won't read, there we go. I want to have the character hold and look. But the problem is that if I have a pose over here, and then I make a pose over here, right? And let's imagine that the character is now going to look down. So I'm going to create that pose. I'm like, okay, he's going to look down way over there. The problem is that the character will not hold. They will move, right? So they're going to always move to the new key. So when I want to make a hold, what I have to do is I need to make a copy of that pose and then paste it. So basically it's like bracketing. I want to bracket a part of time where it doesn't move. So I would grab those 3 controls and hit S and then copy that pose. And let's say I don't want it to move for 10 frames. Now let's hit paste. Then it's going to hold and then it's going to move here. So these 2 keys are exactly the same and the character doesn't move. So that's how I create this hold. So I'm going to bounce in, then look down. And again, I want to hold this pose. So I'll copy. And maybe I want this to be a longer pause. Maybe this is 10 frames. So maybe I'll make this a little bit longer, right? So I'm going to move, hold that for a little bit more. And then I want to look up. So I might block in another pose over here. Let's move the character up a little bit. And I really want to make it clear they're going to look where they want to go. So it's going to like I'm looking down here, look up over there. That's where I want to go. And again, I want to hold. So I don't know, 10 frames. We're at my 67. Let's try that. 77. Yeah. And then I want to prepare. So, okay, then I'm going to anticipate. And I'll start getting my anticipation pose in. So I'm just blocking in the major beats here. So one is, okay, I'll look down, look up, get ready to jump. And if I hit the play button, you can see it's going way too fast. What do I need to fix? Anybody know how to fix
the slider?
Yeah. Right click, and where do I go? Where do I go to?
Playback speed.
Time display.
Playback speed.
Real time.
Real time. Okay, because before it looked like it was going way too fast. So I hit play. And then what I'll also do is I'm going to go back to the camera view, or the shot camera, and I'll just look from there and say, okay, well, here's my character. I know they're going to bounce in. So that feels okay. This is not a bad starting point. If any of these movements felt slow, right? If this feels too slow, then I would grab all the controls, grab all the animation downstream and move it a little closer. And that would speed that up, right? So if I wanted this to be really cartoony, right? What if I just took like 2 frames? Right? So that's a lot sharper, right? So that seems much more comedic, right? That's more like, huh? Right? But does that really match the tone of this? That doesn't really it feels like that's really too abrupt. And looking
too
at
abrupt,
the camera,
too cartoony.
Yeah, too sharp, right? So it feels like, what? So that's more like a reaction. If somebody said something really offensive, like, what? Really quick. It's really sharp. So, okay, I'll move it back a little bit. And there's no magic number. It's just what looks good. And still too sharp. Okay, add more time. So I just add 3 or 4 frames at a go and just see, okay, yeah, that's better. And here, this one, maybe that look up, maybe that could be faster. That feels a little slow. Move that back. And then maybe here, do I need to hold that a little bit longer? Maybe. Okay, so I'll block that out a little more. Okay. And then I would do a little increment and save. So now I've got my timeline kind of blocked in. And then I'm preparing. And then once we get to the jump, it's very familiar territory, right? So if this thing is preparing to jump, there's a squash. What would be the next pose I'd want to figure out? Stretch pose. Okay, so I'll build my stretch pose. And I'll just lift this thing up like that. I want to jump in this direction. So I'm kind of imagining it. But you can see if I pull the control, I can pull it away from the geo. But it's not a good idea to do that because for one thing, it's not that easy to be accurate. I'm moving this. It's better if you can move this and just see that the neck of the lamp is just able to touch or just that it's not pulling away too far. So just enough, nice straight line. I also, if I know that I'm jumping up, then drag is down. So I would have the head snap down a little bit more to show that there's pull, right? So there's drag. The other thing that would make this seem more believable is if I actually was lifting the base up. Now the problem, of course, just like with the tail ball, we had the same problem, is the pivot point is way up here, and the pivot point is not where we're on edge. So you can see that the edge, right, of the base is sliding. It was over here, and now it's over here. So I have to kind of do this manually to make sure that this connects. And then I can take this and move it up even more and get a nice line. Again, if I point this thing straight up, it will feel like it's only going to go straight up. I want to point this in a diagonal line in the direction I want to go, up and over. There, so I have my squash. Looks like I forgot to set a key. See that over here? This is animating from here to here. I forgot to set a key. So that's okay. All I have to do is copy this one and go here and paste so that the base stays locked on the ground until I want it to move. There's my stretch pose. And again, for a jump, I don't know, I'll make a guess. How about we do something like 8 frames up, 8 frames down. I could do 10 and 10, right? We could try that. So if it's 20 frames later, there's 89. So 99 would be halfway. And then 109 would be all the way on the other side. That's when I would land. And again, what I would do is just grab this pose, right? This is exactly the same pose. And then drag it over here and then flip everything. I'll just 0 the rotation, 0 the translate Y, there. Rotate it that way, figure out my landing point, and now drag is going to be in the opposite direction. So now I'm coming from here. So I'm basically just taking this pose and sliding it over here, okay? Because they're very similar. Whenever you have poses that are similar, it's a good idea to copy and paste them. Just the same idea, when I'm going to land, I'm going to use this pose. I already have a pose like this anticipation pose would work really good as a landing pose, right? The squash pose, I'm going to see it again. I just have to move it. So all I have to do is just move this pose over and just try to make sure that I line up the base so it feels like they actually land just on edge, right? And maybe I'll lift that up a little bit so it's easier to see. Yeah, it's still sliding. I just want that to connect really nicely. Clunk, 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 clunk. All right. And I haven't done the high point for a very good reason. If I let the computer give me the in-betweens and I go into my graph editor and make sure that everything is just straight lines, the computer will give me an exact 50% right here. And all I have to do is lift it up and then make it look like it's jumping. How do I do that? By doing everything I can to make it feel like it's not balanced on a flat surface. So in the air, I would never want this to be completely flat, horizontal. That'll feel like it's on something. But if I do that, I want to make it feel like a bird's legs tucked under, right, when they're in flight. So I jump up and land. And you can do this throughout. Anywhere that you have a similar pattern, right, jumping up in the air and then landing. If I'm going to jump again from this point, if I squash, I need another stretch pose. Well, I have one over here. I'll just copy that over here. Let's say 2 frames later, paste. I just have to drag it over and just kind of match the edge so it doesn't slide so much. Just do that by eye. There. So this is pose to pose. When you see me flipping through my keys, I'm looking just at my poses. And then I have to go back up in the air. So I could go grab this pose. And I need more time over here. don't know where. Let's make a guess. Paste. Oops, wrong pose. There. Copy. Oh, I don't have everything selected. There we go. S. Copy. Then jump up in the air. Paste and just move it. And I don't want that jump to be as big. So I'll move it over there. Boing, boing. Now, if I hit the play button, right, it's going to look really lousy because all I have are the basic keys. I haven't done any work in the graph editor or added any breakdowns. That's okay. I'm just looking at my main ideas. And I just want to make sure that I'm communicating. I know I'm going to have the lamp jump in. I know they're going to stop. I know they have to look down. They have to look back up. They prepare. They jump. They make it. And they keep going. And they jump off screen. And I'll just switch to my camera view just to see, am I getting the character off screen? Because maybe here, I need to move them a little bit more this way. And you see, I can't see the character anymore. If you want, you can go over here and there is the gate mask, right? Which you can turn on and off. And then I can see the character and I can look and see, well, where would they be? Would they actually be here? I don't want to mess this up. I want them to jump, but I don't want them to jump as high as here, right? Maybe this should be a bit of a lower jump. And then I might just set a key and have them move clearly off screen and down. And now I don't have to worry anymore if they're off screen. I'm just trying to get them off of screen and then I can go turn the gate mask back on. All right, so that's just a first pass of blocking. I still have to worry about the beginning, how the character lands in here. So again, I'd have to go back and make sure, well, if you look at the example, I think I had to do like a little hop. So it was here, but it didn't completely come to rest with one drop in. It went bounce, bounce. So it was like thunk, thunk. So what I would do is work backwards and say, well, I'm here. Let's figure out where that other bounce was. Let's say I landed here, right? So it's like thunk, thunk. And then halfway, I'll go up. Boom, boom, right? So that's sort of really just like a chess piece. I'm just figuring out where the bounce would be. Boom. And then I need to do the same thing. If we're landing, then I need a stretch pose. So I could go borrow one, or I could just go make one here and say, yeah, there's my stretch pose. I'm going to be coming in from off screen like this. I'm going to lift that up and then make sure that, I'm going to have my stretch, my squash, all that stuff. Okay, but the way I'll pre-visit is just this, just to kind of figure out where I am. And then I might go up here and say, let's do a pose there. Boom, boom, right? So I'm just working with a little chess piece first, just to get the timing right, thunk, thunk. Then I'll go back and redo the timing. And of course here, I can't see if I want to go back a little bit to put in a pose. I might have to move the character over here and then down. So I just turn off the gate mask, say, okay, if I'm here, boom. And I just want to make sure that the number of frames going up and down are similar, right? I haven't really thought this through very well. I'm just blocking in ideas. And at this stage, I'm just going to hit play and just make sure, does it feel believable? Anything that's too quick, I need more time. This still feels a bit quick, so maybe I'll move that back a little bit. Boom, boom. Great. And increment and save. There. So that's how I would approach blocking this in, right? I don't necessarily have to start at the very beginning and work linearly. The performance is more fun and you need to figure out where you're going. I need to figure out where does this thing stop, because at this point, it's going to do a lot of acting. It's going to be here for a while. It's going to look down. It's going to look over. Another little tip I'll give you is watch from the camera view. I made this mistake right here. This is what we would call a tangent. A tangent is when you have two lines, tangent, forgot the N, tangent, is when two lines meet in a way that you don't understand depth. So what happens here is the corner of this is touching the corner of the lamp head. And that makes it very unclear what is in front and what is further away. The classic example I remember learning in drawing class is, let's imagine you're a kid and you draw a nice happy little boat, right? You got the ocean going on here, and then you draw the sail for the boat. And the boat is sailing right in front of a cliff. And the cliff wall lines up exactly with the line you put here for the boat. And then you don't have any idea what is cliff and what is the mast, right? Because they look like they're the same thing. So when you see a tangent like that, then we need to fix that. And it's a pretty easy problem. You would just make sure when you grab your character and you look at the pose, when I'm going to have them look down, well, I want more overlap. I either want to be clearly away from this or clearly overlapping it. So there's no doubt in anyone's mind. I don't want to have it so it's just perfectly resting right on the corner where it feels very flat. Okay, so we're always looking at tangents when we pose and design compositions. So that's where I want to be. And then I would just copy that pose over here. There, so now it holds. Okay,